Thank you very much for joining Cinema Showcase. And join me right now and welcome to the program, Edward James Olmos. Ed, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Jim, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting us.
I mentioned in the introduction that your new film, Stand and Deliver, is a powerful motion picture, and I think really that is an understatement. It is more than a powerful motion picture. It, first of all, it's tremendously entertaining, and it also has a lot to say. And when you can do both of those things, I think you've created something that's going to last.
Yeah, we were discussing that just before we went on the air. I think the test of time will be on the side of this piece of work. I would rank this with the likes of the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez and being able to sustain the test of time. The ballad, more people are seeing it now than they saw it when it came out. I think this film, per se, will probably be used in the year 2010 more than it'll be seen this year when it's coming out.
Now, everyone who knows you from Miami Vice will, I think the first thing they'll notice when they see Stand and Deliver is the dramatic change in appearance. You certainly look different, as we'll see in the clip in a few minutes. Let me ask you though, what drew you to this project? I know it's been a long time since something has really piqued your interest this much.
Yes, it's been since the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez since I've done a film. This particular piece was story again. I think that if you talk to most character actors, it's basically story that motivates you, even more than the character per se, because I can play the doorstop or the lead. It doesn't matter anywhere in between, as long as it's a good story. But if it's not a good story, then you can have the best character in the world and won't be able to quite function. And I think in this case, this story rang a tremendous sense of dignity, and when I got to know the man, the most humorous part I've played on film to date. It's a role that most people, first of all, won't recognize me. My own wife of 21 years walked right by me when we started filming the show. No one had seen me in full regalia, so when I came out the first time, with the mustache shaven and with my toupee on, most people were in shock. Even Jaime Escalante himself was pretty drawn back by the transformation. It was total in commitment and total in appearance, and I think that most people will find it to be an extraordinary journey into the life of one man who is definitely not only making a difference, but really setting an example of what can be done with human potential.
All right, without giving too much of the story away, even though it is a true story and details, of course, are known, it's no secret of what the story is really. Tell us a little about Jaime Escalante.
He's probably one of the most complex men I've ever had the honor of really watching for a long time. Needless to say, he's a genius. He's probably one of the most masterful teachers in the school systems today. I would rank him as one of the true innovators when it comes to thought and theory and putting forth an idea and teaching it to children. He can have anyone that has the desire to learn numbers, he can get them through to the full understanding of the language of calculus. That's a big statement to say, because there's some children, people just give up on. But he sees human potential in everyone. It just takes time, a tremendous amount of time, and a sense of persistence and determination that are overwhelming. And the key ingredients is patience. And he has the patience of a saint. At one time, the movie was called Walking on Water, because really that's what he was doing, and that's what he is doing today. Without giving away too much, like you say, the man has created a basic, fundamental energy package right there, Garfield, that no one can buckle, and not even the stardom that he has received after the completion of the controversy, because it was a tremendous controversy that takes place in this movie that will just hit you like a right hook right across the chin. If you don't know what it's about, please don't read about too much about it, just go see it, because basically that's exactly where you get the full impact. But for those of us that have seen it, and for those of us that are returning to see it, because there's a lot of people that have gone back to see this film a lot of times already. It's out in Los Angeles and in New York at the present time. It's going to open nationally on April 15th. And I must tell you that people have been seeing it, 4 or 5 times.
As I mentioned to you, it's the kind of movie that I felt I should have seen more than once before talking to you about it, because there's so many aspects to this film that are so complex and so rich, and yet it is such a tremendously moving experience.
It's the kind of a piece that makes you laugh at the beginning for about 3/4 of the way through, when you start to realize, first of all, it's a true story. If everybody will walk in there and understand the kind of films that we're involved with, when we have fact, we play the fact, and basically you come up with the results. We just give you the facts. And that makes the participation of the audience total. And you walk in with your sense of value, and you walk out of there with your own sense of value after experiencing this event, and you'll either be moved or you won't be. But so far, everyone that has seen the picture has been moved to the point of saying that this film is not only fun, entertaining, very dramatic, has a lot of suspense. It's like a whodunit without, did they or didn't they cheat?
Exactly.
And then at the end, it's a totally inspirational movie where you stand up and you cheer. My friend called me up on the telephone one night. It was about 2 o'clock Eastern time, and he was calling from the West Coast, and he had just finished seeing it at the Westwood Plaza. And he says, I've never seen anything like it. The film finished, and the people stood up and they cheered the screen. I said, oh boy, I can't believe that. He says, yeah, and these were not, these were just, there was a mixture of kids and grown-ups in the audience. Kids have actually taking their teachers and parents to see the film because it signals, it's a tremendous asset to the youth to use as not only a motivator, but as an example of what good teaching is all about. It's quite an extraordinary film. Teachers love it, parents love it, and students love it, but it sets a very high standard.
That is a good point. There are so many great teachers out there, but I wonder how many teachers see it and are so overawed by what this man has accomplished, they think to themselves, I can't do that.
I don't think they're overawed. I think that the man is celebrating education. I don't think I've ever seen a film that celebrates education. In a time period when we have over 30 million functioning illiterates in this country, in a time when 33% of the students will not graduate from high school, in a time when 49% of the Hispanic surname children will not graduate from high school, you have a Jaime Escalante appear to celebrate, and celebrating education. Every day in his class is a celebration. It's like a joy of living. I can't tell you. It's the best of that can happen on this earth right now. Because basically I think the development of the human mind is really the joy of life. It really is. And when it's celebrated by a person who has knowledge and the ability to teach knowledge, then everybody goes to the moon. You're just like in orbit, and that's what happens. He's not dry, he's not intellectual, he's a genius in thought, he's a master in teaching, and he's applied it to a certain standard in a certain area that he cannot variate. He knows very well what he's doing, so well that he can't be tempted by people offering him better opportunities elsewhere, a chance of maybe teaching teachers throughout the country. He's started an organization, and I'm helping him with it and bringing him funding so that we can bring teachers to him, so that they will come to his environment and learn what exactly it is and how it works. Rather than him going out of his environment to teach this system, he brings them into his environment, and they pay the teachers to come and study with him. And he's doing that a lot now, and it's quite extraordinary.
That's amazing, just amazing. We have a scene from Stand and Deliver that I want to show the folks watching. What do we need to know about this clip?
2 things. One, that the Variety critic literally staked his view on this picture, on this one scene, saying that it was impossible for the scene to have happened. How could you believe this movie when a person, as we'll see right now, who has just had a heart attack prior to the scene 2 days before, could do this in a classroom? And well, literally he didn't do his homework, like Jaime said, you got to do your homework. He missed it. He missed the whole understanding of the picture. The picture's based on a tremendous sense of homework on my part and a total commitment in documenting this man and his behavior. I wasn't celebrating or trying to characterize his behavior. I was documenting it. I asked him, totally, what happened when you got out of the hospital? Why did you leave the hospital? He says, they told me I was going to have to be in the hospital for, 10 days and I wouldn't be able to teach for a month. And I told him to get me a new doctor. So I put that down on my notes. And then he said, and I said, then what'd you do? He said, I went home and after 2 days I just couldn't take it there. So I went home and they all told me I was crazy, but I just put on my clothes and I went home. And when I got home, my wife was very upset with me, and because I needed to go to school to check on my papers that I'd left there. And I said, you went back to school? He says, yeah. But I had to drive myself because neither my wife nor my son would drive me. And I said, so what'd you do? He says, well, I stuck my head in the door. I said, oh, you mean you walked in? He goes, no, I stuck my head in the door. I said, you stuck your head in the door? I said, yeah. And then what'd you do? He said, I said, hi. And I said, you mean you said hi? He goes, no, I went, hi. And then I said, what'd you do? And he going, yeah, bulldog, dog. And I said, and I was writing all this down. And I said, then what'd you do? And I said, I walked up to the teacher who was there, and I handed him the slip of paper that I was holding in my hand, and I gave it to him. It was the switch that he could take it to the office, and that you had to dismiss him and take responsibility of the class, and this was the switch. And I gave him the paper, and I said, thank you very much for babysitting my canguros. And I said, oh, okay. And so I wrote that down. And then I said, what'd you do then? And I said, I told everybody to stand up and line up like a snake. I said, what? He said, I told everyone to stand up and line up against the wall like a snake, because we only had 2.5 weeks left before we were going to take the examination. I said, what'd they do? I said, they stood up and they lined up like a snake. And I walked over there and I told them, I asked them questions, and the one that could answer it would stay there. The one that couldn't would walk to the end of the line. I said, Lord, they're not going to believe this scene. And so as you're about to see, that's what he's just had a heart attack 2 days before, and he's just come back. And this is what Jaime Escalante did.
All right. Here's a scene from Stand and Deliver.
Hi! I'm still alive. I'm a hard-dying type of guy.
Shouldn't you be in the hospital?
No, I should be here with you. Yeah! Thank you very much for babysitting my canguros. Have a good day. How are you? How are you?
Hey, you should be taking it easy, man. Yeah, Kimo, go back to bed, man.
No, I should be here with you guys. I mean, you already forgot to stand up, everybody. No, against the wall like a snake. Hurry! We've been practicing for this all year. You're the best. You guys are the best. This is gonna be a piece of cake.
Upside down.
And
Step by step.
all right, you got it now. Open your eyes. Y equal to ln quantity x minus 1. What's the domain?
X is greater than -1.
No, to the end of the line. I've been gone 2 days and you forget already. What's the domain?
All real numbers greater than 1, x is greater than 1.
I told you you could do it. Okay, Kamasaki. Okay.
A scene from Stand and Deliver, starring my guest, Edward James Olmos. I can understand how such a scene might be thought of as unbelievable.
That's why I told him that night that he told me the scenes, and when he told me about his heart attack and how it happened, and I executed it exactly as it happened. He ended up being the best acting coach I've ever had in my life. He's so brilliant and masterful in being able to teach that he knew the intensity and the intent of my commitment, and he helped me get to the finest performance that I've given on film to date. And I really attribute this performance to him, and we've seen the film many times together, and I actually invited him to be with me on the set, and he came many, many times, and it was The director and the producer were a little bit apprehensive about that and didn't want him on the set. But I finally convinced them that it was the best thing for the movie. That's a cardinal rule never to do, never to be broken. You never bring the original onto the set. You just become that person, and then you are the original. You are the embodiment of that character. And in the true method of acting, you not only become from the inside out, but you also are called by that name, and you never break character even off camera. When you're walking around the set, your days, everything, it's the method. Well, in this case, I had him there, and I mirrored him. I literally mirrored him so that anything he was doing, anytime he was doing it, I would be doing it at a split second or at the exact same time. I tried to get to the point where I was on him so honestly that without him, if he'd go like this, I was already doing it and within seconds, and in hundredths of a second. And it ended up that I had all of his movements and gestures. I studied hours and hours of tapes. I had 8 hours of tapes that I had for over a year in advance. I had over 40 hours of audio tapes that I'd recorded with conversations with him. I'd studied his construct of theory. I studied his dialect. I studied his manner of speaking, because he has a tremendous way of being the comedian and the teacher, and being able to be a streetwise kid at the same time as being the teacher and the comedian. And all of those put together, the way he would entwine those, and his transitions between the two were of a master, truly a master. So that you saw him here, you know, he grabs you inside. He's a tremendous man, and will probably make the biggest difference for the future of this country's educational system of any one person ever.
When the film opens, he is just beginning to teach. At that time, did he, do you think, have this master plan already worked out? Did he know what he was going to do then?
Yeah. He didn't have the idea of whether he'd be doing it in this manner. He just knew that, see, he had come from Bolivia, where he had been a teacher beforehand. He had taught at the age of 18 and 19 years old. He started to teach. By the time he was 21, he was teaching at the university level, and he was teaching undergraduates. And at the age of 13, he started studying physics. So by the time he was 18, 19, he was teaching classmates, and then at the age of 21, he was teaching at the university level, and he was teaching physics. He was teaching physics to barefooted children of the Altiplano, you know, indigenous people who, you know, no one would ever take the time to teach, and was getting very successful results from them. And he left because his wife asked him that there was the political and the economical strife at that time in Bolivia forced him into leaving the country. And so he came here, and he started off by scrubbing floors in a bandy camp in Pasadena while going to school during the daytime. He worked from 11 till 7 as a custodian, and then worked his way through Cal State, got his degree, went on to work at Burroughs as an engineer, developed some incredible computer ideas for Burroughs, was wanted by Burroughs to stay there, was offered tremendous gains in profit and wealth, and quit to go teach. His master plan was always to teach. He didn't know that the school he was going to was going to be a disaster area that was losing its accreditation, which it was at that time. He didn't know that he couldn't take the fact that kids didn't appreciate education. Where he came from, people die to get educated. That's the only thing they want to do. It's a third world country. It's the only survival you have is to feed your brain, because basically you have nothing else. There's no prosperity in the country. And he ended up feeling very guilty at the beginning, because for the first 6 months he wanted to quit. But then after that he got kicked in, and once he got kicked in, he took over. And when he took over, he brought out the meat cleaver. And that's true. I mean, I had a heck of a time getting that scene into the movie. Both the director and the producer felt that it was, you know, not necessary. And I said, are you kidding? This is like the essence of what the movie's about. This is the man. This is him. I mean, when you see him with a meat cleaver,
Explain
it's
that
quick.
scene a little bit. He brings
Oh man, it's when he told it to me, I died. He said, well, you know, I used to come out, Eddie, and I put on my apron and my hat. I go, apron? Yeah, McDonald's apron. I said, McDonald's apron, okay. And what would you do? You put on a hat? He says, yeah, McDonald's hat. And he said, what would you do? He said, I used to get this knife, a big knife, and I needed to get their attention. So real seriously, I would open my case and I'd unfold my apron and put on my hat, and then I would, you know, pull out some apples, and he'd have little apples, and he'd go like this out the side of the suitcase, and briefcase. He'd pull the apples out and pull them back in. So he was enticing the kids, and they were wild and going crazy, and they're saying all kinds of stuff. And then he'd walk out from behind them looking real serious with the knife, huge knife, and stand there and look at him. And everybody would just like kind of say, well, what's this, right? And then he'd grab the knife and just go pick it up and just slam it down, and he'd chop the apple. And then he'd start dicing them up, and he'd start handing out the apples, and that's how he taught fractions and percentages. But he grabbed the attention of the students. From that moment on, it was a ride through the moon.
Yeah.
This man took them every day. It was a different event. Every day was a celebration. He brings music in. They dance. He plays basketball in his room. He actually shows parabolas through the usage of arcs of the different kind of shots that basketball players do. And he shows limits through the usage of a left-hander and a right-hander in baseball. So everything's related, and he's got his own language that is so exquisite that I'm telling you, the movie could have gone on for 4 hours. It was a tremendous film.
Have you talked to him at all about the additional fame that this movie might bring him, and how do you think that will change him anyway?
No, he calculated this also, Jim. He calculated that if the movie worked, what the probabilities would be. He told them to me in a very calm and quiet way, not egotistical, not in any respect, but he told me. He literally told me what would happen. He said it would be a slow groundswell of a situation that would catch if the movie was good, would catch the heart of the public, then it would grow, and it would grow into world understanding, and then it would honestly send a tremendous amount of energy back at him. But the way that he would respond to that would be to stay in his room, continue to grow in awareness with those kids, and then make all the fishbowl, the entire world, look back on those kids, therefore pouring all the energy back into the East LA area and into the communities that are like East LA, because all areas are growing because of this. All of a sudden, everyone is starting to see this. Now, if he turned around and dissipated his energy by leaving the base and the core of where the energy level in the seed was originated, he would lose. He would lose the strength that he can gain. Right now, he has 147 students preparing to take that examination.
Yes.
They'll be taking it this month. Next year, he's got over 200.
And it's, for those who don't know, it is one of the most difficult examinations that can be taken.
Only 2% of all students in America who are capable of taking the examination attempt it. And only 3% of that 2% pass it. He's fourth in the nation right now in having students pass the advanced placement test in calculus.
Now, even though the film deals with, he's teaching Hispanic kids, the movie, I think, certainly speaks to everybody, to all students, all parents, all teachers, to everybody, not just one particular ethnic group.
Yeah, it's like saying that the Raging Bull only spoke to Italians,
right.
Or like saying that great Woody Allen only speaks to Jewish people. You know, it's a stigma that basically I think people are almost. I think this is it. This may be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and people will stop looking at at the culture in so much as they'll start looking at story. And hopefully they won't be, to date I've never heard anyone say, here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the finest Italian-American actor around, Robert De Niro. I've never heard anybody say, here he is, the best Jewish-American actor around, Dustin Hoffman. But I do hear, ladies and gentlemen, here's this Hispanic-American actor, Edward James Olmos. I hear that. I think soon even that will become a secondary thing, and they're going to just say, here he is, an actor, like you did.
But that, this movie does indeed tell a remarkable story about an extraordinary man. And if you will permit me to say, you are indeed superb in this movie. It's one of the best performances I have seen in a long, long time.
Thank you.
And I mean that sincerely. We only have a couple of minutes left, and we will disappoint a lot of your Miami Vice fans if we don't say something about that. What's happening with Miami Vice, and where's that going?
At the present time, I'll have to say that it's not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But, Jim, I've said that after every year.
How
So
have you?
I've said that for the last 4 years.
Your general reaction, though, to the success Miami Vice has had over the years, though. How do you feel about it?
That's been as it should have been. It's been an up and down ride, just like the consistency of the stories have been. If the stories had been consistent, this show would have flown to the moon and back. But since the stories were inconsistent, we ended up having an inconsistent ride.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes all back to story. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. How can you beat a good story? I mean, you can shoot a good story on 8mm, and you can see it and you'll enjoy it. But you could shoot a bad story on 70mm Dolby Stereo sound, and it won't make any difference.
It's true. That's, I think, the cardinal rule is you've
Story.
got to. The bottom line is the good story.
Yeah, if
From
you
there-
have the story, then people will sit down and listen. They'll listen to it in a song. They'll listen to it in a book, written, poetry, a movie, a play. You
Yeah.
know. But if it's a bad written word, it all goes back to the written word.
Exactly.
Really,
This has been an incredibly fast half hour, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
I have, Jim. I appreciate
And
your
I
time.
urge everyone to see Stand and Deliver, and my thanks to you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My thanks to all of you for watching. Until next time, good night.